may see a return in L.A. According to reports, CP3 is hopeful to return for Game 3 as long as he clears the league's health and safety protocols. So, Shannon, if CP3 returns tomorrow night, is this series over?
Nope. I've learned my lesson the hard way. I am never counting out a T. I should have known better to do that before after seeing how he coached those years in Cleveland and being down 3-1. So I'm never going to sell a T. Lue coach team short because those guys, he will find a lineup. He will push the right buttons and guys will make shots. There's something about him exuding and instilling confidence in guys that all of a sudden Reggie Jackson looks like the player that Detroit gave a max contract to, Skip. He's playing that well offensively. You look at guys, Terrence Mann comes in, Zubac, what he had, 14 and 12. Guys start playing. Luke Kennard did nothing all year long. And you look at him the last 4 or 5 games in which T. Lue, and he hadn't played a whole lot of minutes, and he can't miss. So for
10 in the fourth quarter last.
Yes. So no, Skip. I'm not counting, and I understand the Suns are a different team. They're better than the previous 2 teams that they beat after falling behind 2-0. But I'm not counting them out because all they need to do is get, especially if they get the first one. Now, Skip, if they lose on Thursday night, I don't see a situation where they beat Phoenix 4 straight times. Now, I know what they did to Utah, but I don't see that same scenario happening to the Suns. But I'm not counting them short. Now, does that give them, you get another score, another ball handler, and it takes the pressure off of Book. Now he can go back to a role that he's most comfortable, getting buckets. He doesn't have to worry about Skip because of their 9 turnovers that they had. He had 7 of them.
He did.
So for me, no, I'm not counting them out. But they better win on Thursday night because if they don't win Thursday night, I don't see a scenario in which they win the next 4 games.
I would like to say that my Clippers have the Suns right where they want them. Down 0-2, going home.
Yeah.
At least they're not going to Dallas for games 3 and 4. But to your point, I must admit, this is very different than the last 2 series.
Yeah.
Because there's no Kawhi Leonard. He is not coming back for these playoffs. And unfortunately, the harder I looked at what he did in games 3 and 4 in Dallas, and then obviously games 3 and 4 at Staples versus Utah, it was pretty extraordinary because at Dallas, Lord have mercy, he goes 36 and 29 in those 2, that Friday night and Sunday. And then Utah 34 and 31 at Staples, games 3 and 4. That's an average of 33 points a game and 9 rebounds a game. Right. Well, you can't just replace that, right?
Right. And you can't replace his defense because who you gonna give you 31 in his D?
And it's do or die, like you just said. I don't care. I know mathematically it's not, but especially Thursday night.
Yeah, you got to win Thursday.
You have to win Thursday night. Well, you don't have your guy, and he's your best player. And I always said, Paul George, we're going to talk about him in just a second, complimentary. He's 1A. Right now, he's got to be 1 only. Right. And can he rise up? Maybe. Do they have enough? I called them the deepest team in pro basketball the whole year, and they have enough depth, but do they have enough star power? Right. So it may not be that the Clippers can win it, but it might be that the Suns will lose it, which brings me to Cameron Payne. On Twitter last night, I had to respell his last name because for me, it was P-A-I-N because he was inflicting nothing but pain. Yeah. Every time I looked up, he got another bucket. Right. He strokes the 3s, lefty, sweet lefty with a weird motion, but it's sweet, man.
And he can get to the rim, Skip.
Can he? Cameron Payne is lightning quick.
He is.
Again, I'm not suggesting he's better than Chris Paul, but he's different. Yeah. He brings you another level of explosive scoring that right now, Chris at age 30, what is he, 6?
36.
36, he just can't do this anymore. Right. This is lightning. This is, they put Paul George on him in the 4th quarter, and Paul's just having a hard time staying in front of him. He's just too quick. He's Trae Young quick, and he's long to the basket where he can do those up and unders or those high floaters off the glass.
And there's not a whole lot of point guard, Skip, that has that kind of quickness that a lefties. No. You got to talk about De'Aaron Fox. You got to talk about Mike Conley. But most point guards you face, they're righties. So all of a sudden, you going against a guy, you like, oh, he's right.
Okay.
He laid
so
up with his
I'm
left.
going to remind everybody, Cameron Payne in 2015 was the 14th overall pick in the draft.
Right.
We forget because he couldn't quite live up because that Oklahoma City Thunder team was led by Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
Correct.
That team was up 3-1 on Golden State.
Right.
And you know the rest of the story. KD ends up with Golden State
But
the
he
next
was
year.
Reggie, excuse me, I was going to say Reggie had already gone by then, I think.
He had gone by then. So they needed him to be their next Reggie.
Right.
And listen, those guys, that Sam Presti, he can pick them.
Yes.
He can find diamonds in the rough,
Right.
starting with Russell Westbrook.
Right.
And Reggie Jackson, I didn't see him come from Boston College. You know,
Right.
where did that come from?
Yeah.
I didn't know about him, and he's that guy.
Yes.
He's got that kind of explosive ability. So does Cameron Payne, but he wasn't able to live up to it
Right.
with the Thunder. Then he bounced around. This is his 6th season, and he went Bulls, and then he went Cavs, and here he is with the Suns.
Didn't some GM, somebody in the Chicago organization said that we knew after the second practice he couldn't play?
Couldn't play, all right? That's fine, but he can play now.
Right.
And he's not, you know, it's not like he's old. He's what, 24 years of age. And the point is, he's 6'1", 185 pounds, but with the quickness and the athletic ability and the moxie and the guts, he is absolutely fearless. Well, I first saw it against your Lakers.
Yeah.
Because when Chris Paul went down, he didn't go completely out. But obviously in games 2 and 3, he was just, talk about a shell. I couldn't even recognize him. And guess who? Well, here he came. So Cameron Payne against you guys in game 2, he goes 19 and 7 assists. That'll work. Next game, 15 and 6 assists. And I'm saying, wait a second, that guy can play.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously play.
Right.
And against the Lakers, he shot 42% from 3. Well, that'll work, right? So I said, uh-oh. Then against Denver, he was not needed because Chris Paul rose and shone, and we know the rest of that, and he barely played.
Skip, you mentioned something interesting. You said he might not can play. He might not can play, but he can play for Monty Williams. And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
He might not even do anything else for any other team in the NBA or any other coach. But for some reason, he's able to play for him. Because Monty, Skip, he was sitting on the street, and Monty came and got him and said, I need you.
Yeah.
So, again, we're talking about somebody that believes in you.
And by the way, for those who completely airballed this, Cameron Payne played at Murray State ahead of Ja.
Yes.
But he was Ja without the hype. because
without the hops.
Yeah, and without the hops. I don't know. He's got pretty good hops, but he didn't have that kid's hops.
No.
So he went 19 and 6 over his 2 years at Murray State, but he was the 14th overall pick.
Right.
And so I can make the case that if you suddenly change your rotation, and obviously, if Chris is back, there's nothing wrong with Chris, except he had to get over his cut past the test, and he will, and he's going to play on Thursday night.
Right.
So the point is, are you sure that it won't be a step down for the Suns? Because remember, Chris has not played basketball now for 11. It's 11 days.
11 days, okay.
Right, because they were off a week.
Right.
Okay,
Correct.
so it's 11 days. Well, again, rooting for the Clippers, I'm not saying that Cameron Payne is better than Chris Paul, but he's playing right now at a higher, more explosive offensive level than I believe Chris can play
But
at.
I think that Monty Williams have the luxury of having is that Chris would need a break. He won't be as hesitant to give Chris a break with knowing that Cameron Payne can come in and can do the job. But imagine, Skip, Cameron Payne coming in going against your second unit. Now, you saw what he did against your first unit. Imagine he comes in and going against your second unit.
Okay, but in the sweep of Denver, his minutes fell all the way to only 16 a game, which will probably be what he'll play in game 3 at Staples on Thursday night. Well, against Denver, he scored 7, 7, 9, and 4. So he went way, way down from those explosive.
But also, Chris Paul's numbers went way, way, way up as far as scoring compared to what he did against the Lakers.
Okay, I'm just saying maybe slight advantage Clippers that you don't have to deal with this guy the way you had to, not for... What did he play, like almost 40 minutes last night? I mean, he played the bulk of the...
Yeah, he played 37 minutes.
37 minutes, okay. Well, is he going to play 37?
No.
He will not.
No.
Will Chris play 35? He probably will. It's his team. He's the obvious leader. A lot of people thought not only is the MVP of this team, but he should have been the MVP of the league. Okay, I give you all the above. As a Clippers fan, I will not be unhappy if Cameron Payne is limited to 13 minutes.
No.
Okay?
But let me ask you a question. What if they play Chris Paul and Cameron Payne together? We have seen them do that. Because I believe Patrick Beverly will stay on Devin Booker, even when Chris Paul comes back, and now you slide Reggie Jackson to CP3.
Remember, we have seen Ty Lue play Rondo and Pat Bev together quite a bit. They were together some last night.
Right.
So to combat that, the way to to defeat that, you play those two guys together. And I'm convinced that he wants Rondo to get some big run on Chris Paul because they don't like each other, and Rondo knows Chris Paul's game and can get just as physical as Chris can get.
Rondo hit some big shots last night.
Okay, he has been hitting big shots. And again, Ty has been pushing all the right buttons, but you got to push the Pat Bev button harder because he needs to play 35 minutes on Thursday night because he is the X factor.
You think he has that kind of minutes in that body?
I do. He's 32. He's almost 33. But, hey, is he not some kryptonite for Devin Booker?
But, Skip, his 32 is different because he